Ladies and gentlemen, what if the greatest obstacle standing between you and the life you want is not your circumstances, not your past, not your education, not your lack of money, not the people who doubted you, but the person you see every morning in the mirror? Think about that. The person who can change your life may be staring back at you right now. And that realization is frightening. Because if success starts with you, then responsibility starts with you too. No more waiting for someone to save you. No more waiting for the perfect opportunity. No more waiting for confidence to arrive before you take the first step. No more blaming yesterday for what you refuse to build today. Because somewhere beneath your excuses, beneath your fear, beneath the stories you have told yourself about what you can and cannot become, there is a version of you that has been waiting for you to wake up, waiting for you to decide, waiting for you to stop living as a spectator in your own life. Ladies and gentlemen, success does not begin when you receive the promotion. It does not begin when your bank account reaches a certain number. It does not begin when the world finally applauds you. Success begins in a quieter place. It begins in the private conversation you have with yourself when nobody is watching. It begins the moment you say, "I am responsible for what happens next." That sentence can change everything. Because your life may not have started with your choices. You did not choose your childhood. You did not choose every wound you received. You did not choose every disadvantage. You did not choose every rejection. You did not choose every door that closed in your face. But at some point, you must decide that your past will no longer be the author of your future. You may have been hurt. You may have been overlooked. You may have failed. You may have been betrayed. You may have wasted years. You may have made decisions that you regret. But listen carefully. Your history can explain you without having to imprison you. There is a difference between knowing where you came from and deciding that you must remain there. And that is where your journey begins. Not with perfection, with awareness. One of the deepest truths about human beings is that we can spend years running from parts of ourselves that are desperately asking to be understood. We hide our fear behind arrogance. We hide insecurity behind perfectionism. We hide exhaustion behind ambition. We hide pain behind laughter. We hide uncertainty behind excuses. We become so good at performing for the world that we forget to ask ourselves who we actually are. And then we wonder why success feels empty when we finally achieve it. Because you can climb the highest mountain and still discover that you climbed the wrong mountain. You can become rich and still feel poor inside. You can become famous and still feel invisible. You can win the competition and still lose yourself. You can receive applause from thousands of people and still go home to a silence inside you that applause cannot fill. That is why real success begins with you. Before you ask, "What do I want to achieve?" ask, "Who am I becoming?" Before you ask, "How much can I earn?" ask, "What kind of person will I become while earning it?" Before you ask, "How far can I go?" ask, "What am I willing to sacrifice?" And what am I unwilling to sacrifice? Because achievement without identity can become a prison. And success without meaning can become another form of failure. There was a young man who dreamed of becoming extraordinary. He wanted wealth, recognition, influence, and respect. Every morning he imagined the future version of himself. Confident, powerful, admired. But there was one problem. He hated the person he was becoming while trying to become that person. He sacrificed every relationship. He ignored his health. He lived in constant comparison. He measured his worth by the achievements of other people. Every victory gave him temporary relief, but never peace. Then one evening, after years of chasing success, he sat alone and realized something devastating. He had spent his entire life trying to prove that he was enough. And he had never stopped to ask himself why he believed he wasn't. Ladies and gentlemen, how many people are living like that? How many are working to prove something? Prove to their parents that they are worthy. Prove to their friends that they matter. Prove to an old enemy that they were wrong. Prove to society that they are successful. Prove to themselves that they are not the failure they secretly fear. They are. But what happens when your entire life becomes a courtroom and you are constantly trying to prove your value? You never rest. You never arrive. You never feel enough. Real success is not the endless attempt to prove your worth. Real success is the gradual realization that your worth was never something you had to prove in the first place. And once you understand that, your ambition changes. You stop chasing success because you are desperate to be somebody. You pursue success because you have discovered somebody within you worth developing. That is a completely different kind of fire. It is quieter. It is deeper. It lasts longer. Ladies and gentlemen, there will come a moment in every meaningful life when you have to stop asking for permission. You have to decide. Decide that you will take yourself seriously. Decide that your dreams deserve effort. Decide that your future deserves discipline. Decide that your potential deserves more than excuses. Nobody may believe in you at first. That does not mean you stop. Nobody may understand your vision. That does not mean the vision is wrong. You may begin with almost nothing. That does not mean you cannot build something. The world often celebrates the finished product and forgets the lonely beginning. People see the successful entrepreneur, but not the nights when the business nearly collapsed. They see the athlete holding the trophy, but not the mornings when nobody wanted to wake up and train. They see the author on stage, but not the years of rejection. They see the confident speaker, but not the trembling voice at the beginning. They see the house, but not the sacrifices. They see the victory, but not the war that happened privately. And that is why you must learn to respect the invisible part of success. The early mornings nobody sees. The books nobody knows you are reading. The habits nobody applauds. The decisions nobody understands. The times you say no when everyone else says yes. The moments when you continue, even though you have no evidence that continuing will work. That is where your character is built. Not in the spotlight. In the darkness. A seed does not become a tree because somebody applauds it. It becomes a tree because it keeps growing when nobody is watching. And perhaps you are in that season right now. Perhaps your life looks ordinary. Perhaps your effort seems invisible. Perhaps you have been working for months or years and wondering whether anything is changing. Do not underestimate what is happening beneath the surface. Some of the most important transformations in life are invisible before they become undeniable. You are building something inside yourself. Patience, strength, wisdom, discipline, courage, resilience. And one day, the world may call you an overnight success. Let them. You will know better. You will know about the nights. You will know about the tears. You will know about the failures. You will know about the mornings when you wanted to quit. You will know that what looked like an overnight success was actually years of invisible preparation. That is why you cannot compare your beginning to someone else's chapter 20. Comparison is one of the fastest ways to destroy your relationship with your own journey. You look at someone else's success and ask, "Why am I not there?" But you do not know their starting point. You do not know their sacrifices. You do not know their private battles. You do not know what they had to overcome. And more importantly, their path is not your path. Your task is not to become someone else. Your task is to become more fully yourself. That may be one of the hardest things you will ever do, because the world is constantly telling you who to be by this, look like this, talk like this, live like this, achieve this, fear this, desire this, follow this person, copy that person. But if you spend your entire life becoming a reflection of what everyone else expects, when will you discover your own voice? Success requires courage, because becoming yourself requires separation from the expectations of others. Sometimes you must disappoint people to stop disappointing yourself. Sometimes you must leave a room where everyone knows your name, so you can enter a room where you finally know your purpose. Sometimes growth looks like loneliness before it looks like freedom. And yes, that can hurt. Growth is not always beautiful. Sometimes growth is grieving the person you used to be. Sometimes it is admitting that an old dream no longer belongs to you. Sometimes it is realizing that certain relationships are keeping you small. Sometimes it is accepting that your habits are responsible for the life you complain about. That last one is difficult, because it is easier to blame the world than to examine yourself. It is easier to say, "I don't have time," than to admit that you have not made your priorities clear. It is easier to say, "I am unlucky," than to ask how many opportunities you have ignored. It is easier to say, "People don't support me," than to ask whether you have supported yourself consistently. Responsibility is uncomfortable, but responsibility is also freedom. Because the moment you accept responsibility, you reclaim power. If your entire life is controlled by other people, then you are helpless. But if you can influence your response, your habits, your discipline, your decisions, your attitude, your effort, then you have something powerful. You have agency. You can begin. You can change. You can rebuild. You can choose again. And sometimes the greatest decision you will ever make is simply this: I will no longer abandon myself. Say that to yourself. I will no longer abandon myself, not when I fail, not when people criticize me, not when I am afraid, not when the road becomes difficult, not when I am rejected, not when I make mistakes. I will stay with myself. Because confidence is not believing that you will never fall. Confidence is knowing that if you fall, you will get back up. And there is a tremendous difference. You do not need to know exactly how everything will work out. You need enough courage to take the next step. That is how almost every great life is built. One decision, one habit, one conversation, one book, one early morning, one difficult no, one brave yes, one failure, one lesson, one more attempt, then another, until one day you look back and realize that the life you once thought was impossible was constructed from hundreds of small decisions that nobody noticed. Ladies and gentlemen, do not underestimate small beginnings. The greatest oak tree once fit inside an acorn. The greatest journey begins with a single step. The greatest transformation often begins with a single honest sentence. I need to change. Not, they need to change. Not, the world needs to change. I need to change. That sentence is not weakness. It is power. Because when you become willing to examine yourself, you become capable of transforming yourself. And this is where your hidden weaknesses can become your greatest teachers. Your fear may reveal what matters to you. Your failure may reveal what you need to learn. Your insecurity may reveal where you need compassion. Your anger may reveal a boundary you have ignored. Your disappointment may reveal a dream you still care about. The parts of yourself you would rather hide may contain information about the person you are meant to become. You do not have to love every part of yourself immediately, but you must be willing to look honestly, to sit with yourself without distraction, to ask difficult questions. What am I avoiding? What am I afraid of? What am I pretending not to know? Where am I making excuses? What would I attempt if I knew I could not fail? What am I doing every day that is quietly destroying the future I say I want? Those questions can change a life. Because awareness comes before transformation. You cannot change what you refuse to see. And you cannot heal what you refuse to acknowledge. But once you see it, you can work with it. You can take your fear by the hand. You can turn failure into education. You can turn pain into wisdom. You can turn discipline into freedom. You can turn your past into fuel without allowing it to become your identity. And then comes discipline, because dreams are emotional. Discipline is practical. You may feel inspired today, tomorrow, you may not. You may wake up excited on Monday and exhausted on Tuesday. You may believe in yourself in the morning and doubt yourself at night. That is normal. Do not build your future on feelings. Build it on commitments. If you only work when you feel motivated, your results will always be controlled by your mood. But when you develop discipline, you no longer need to negotiate with yourself every morning. You know what must be done. You do it. Not because it is easy, because it matters. Discipline is a form of self-respect. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you strengthen your relationship with yourself. Every time you say you will do something and then do it, your confidence grows. Not because someone complimented you, because you have evidence. You know you can trust yourself. And imagine what happens when you become a person you can trust. You stop needing constant external validation. You stop asking everyone whether your dream is possible. You stop collapsing every time somebody criticizes you. You become grounded. You become steady. You become difficult to break. Not because life becomes easier, but because you become stronger. And understand this. Strength does not mean you never feel pain. Strength means pain does not get the final word. You can cry and still continue. You can be afraid and still act. You can be disappointed and still hope. You can fail and still begin again. You can be tired and still take one more step. That is strength. There will be moments when life tests you so deeply that you question everything. You may lose something you thought you could not live without. You may be rejected from the opportunity you wanted most. You may discover that someone you trusted cannot walk with you into your future. You may work hard and still fail. And when that happens, you will be tempted to interpret pain as a verdict. Maybe I am not good enough. Maybe this dream was never meant for me. Maybe I should quit. But pain is not always a verdict. Sometimes pain is an invitation to grow, an invitation to become wiser, an invitation to change direction, an invitation to discover that your identity is larger than one outcome. You are not your rejection. You are not your worst mistake. You are not your bank balance. You are not your job title. You are not the opinion of the person who misunderstood you. You are not the chapter of your life you are currently living. You are still becoming. And as long as you are becoming, the story is not finished. So, stop calling yourself a failure because you failed. A person who fails is not necessarily a failure. Failure is an event. It is not an identity. You can fail at a business and still become a great entrepreneur. You can fail an examination and still build an extraordinary life. You can lose a relationship and still become a loving person. You can make terrible decisions and still make better ones tomorrow. Your past may have consequences, but it does not have to have complete control. You get another choice, and another, and another. Until your final breath, there remains some possibility of choosing differently. That is the miracle of being human. Ladies and gentlemen, success starts with you because your inner world eventually shapes your outer world. Your thoughts influence your choices. Your choices become habits. Your habits shape your character. Your character influences your destiny. So if you want a different life, do not only change your circumstances. Challenge your patterns. Challenge what you repeatedly do. Change the conversations you repeatedly have. Chart what you repeatedly consume. Chart what you repeatedly believe. Change the people you repeatedly allow to define you. Chant the standards you repeatedly accept. And most importantly, change the relationship you have with yourself. Because you will spend more time with yourself than with anyone else. Make that relationship worthy of your life. Speak to yourself with honesty, but also with compassion. Challenge yourself without destroying yourself. Demand excellence without demanding perfection. Give yourself permission to begin again. There is a person inside you who does not need you to be perfect. That person needs you to be courageous, needs you to keep going, needs you to stop shrinking, needs you to stop postponing your life. Your future is not asking you to know everything. It is asking you to begin. Perhaps you have been waiting for confidence. Start before you feel confident. Perhaps you have been waiting for the perfect plan. Start with the imperfect plan. Perhaps you have been waiting for support. Start by supporting yourself. Perhaps you have been waiting for the right time. Understand this, there may never be a perfect time. Life is always moving. Years pass. People change. Opportunities disappear. Children grow, potcrunts age. Doors open and close. And one of the saddest experiences is reaching the end of a decade and realizing you spent it waiting for permission to live. Do not do that. Do not wait until you are older to become courageous. Do not wait until you are rich to become grateful. Do not wait until you are successful to become disciplined. Do not wait until you are loved to become loving. Do not wait until you are confident to become brave. Become these things now, because the life you want is not created someday. It is created today, in this moment, in this decision, in this breath. So when you leave this room, do not simply feel inspired. Make a decision. Choose one thing you have been avoiding. Sek it. Choose one habit that is holding you back. Chant it. Choose one dream you abandoned. Return to it. Choose one person you need to forgive. Begin. Choose one promise you need to make to yourself. Keep it. Do something that proves to your own mind that you are serious about your future. Because inspiration without action becomes entertainment. And you were not born merely to be inspired. You were born to participate in your own transformation. One day, someone may ask you how you became successful. And perhaps you will tell them about the opportunities. You will tell them about the people who helped you. You will tell them about the books you read and the lessons you learned. But deep down, you will know the real answer. You decided to get up. You decided to keep going. You decided to take responsibility. You decided to face yourself. You decided to become disciplined. You decided that fear would not make your decisions for you. You decided that failure would educate you instead of define you. You decided that your life was worth the effort. That is where success begins. Not outside you, inside you. So, ladies and gentlemen, when you walk out of here tonight, I want you to remember one image: the mirror. Not because the mirror tells you that you are perfect. It does not. The mirror shows you the person who has weaknesses, fears, scars, dreams, contradictions, mistakes, possibilities, and enormous untapped potential. Look at that person. Do not look away, because that person is your responsibility. That person is your opportunity. That person is your beginning. And perhaps the greatest question you can ask yourself tonight is not, will I be successful? Ask something deeper. Am I willing to become the person my success will require me to be? Because success will demand something from you. It will demand patience. It will demand courage. It will demand sacrifice. It will demand discipline. It will demand that you grow beyond the identity that was comfortable but too small. And if you are willing to pay that price, something extraordinary begins to happen. You stop waiting for your life to change. You become the change. You stop waiting for the world to recognize you. You recognize yourself. You stop asking whether you are capable. You begin proving it through action. And one day, you will look back at the person you used to be and realize that the greatest achievement was not the money, the title, the trophy, the house, or the applause. The greatest achievement was becoming someone you respect. Someone who kept going. Someone who faced the darkness and found a light inside it. Someone who failed and learned. Someone who was afraid and acted anyway. Someone who stopped running from themselves and finally came home to themselves. That is success. So begin while you are uncertain. Begin while you are afraid. Begin while nobody is applauding. Begin with what you have. Begin where you are. Begin imperfectly. But begin. Because your future is not waiting for a miracle. Your future is waiting for a decision. And that decision is yours. Success starts with you. It has always started with you. And perhaps, after everything you have been through, the person you have been waiting for was never coming. Perhaps you were the person you were waiting for. So stand up. Wake up. Choose yourself. Build yourself. Believe enough to begin, and work enough to become. The world does not need another person pretending to be someone else. It needs the fullest, bravest, most honest version of you. And that person is not somewhere in the distance. That person is already within you. Now, go and meet them.